So we've been given the initial bunch of characters that are going to be in Magia Exedra either at the time of release or shortly after the time of release, and most of them are Magia Record characters, and you might think that Magia Record has a lot of characters, and that's true, but there's only like a third of all of the Magia Record characters that exist, so we're gonna have a lot more of this. So why not have someone come in and just tell you a little bit about each of these characters so that you know at least a little bit about who these characters actually are. Someone should do that. So if we look at the initial roster, of course we have to pull our Magi Holy Quintet up there. I'm just gonna assume we all know who they are, so I don't need to waste too much time talking about them, right? Right, okay, so then we can just move on. They're still missing their 6th member, Mabayu, though, so she's gonna appear at some point in the future. Don't worry about that. We're just gonna move right on to the first character from Magia Record that we don't know anything about, in case we haven't played or seen anything about Magia Record. But before I can talk about her, I'm gonna lump all of these characters into individual groups and teams that they're all part of, so that it's a bit easier to digest all of this juicy information, and you're gonna see like little cards pop up on screen to just show you which team we're gonna talk about next. Which is something that hopefully just happened if I'm good at editing. So we're gonna start right off with our very first character, Iroha. So Iroha is the protagonist, main character, point of view character for most of Magia Record, and there's not actually that much to say about her, even though she's kind of like really important, because she's a very straightforward and simple character in a way. Because the thing about Iroha is that she just does the right thing, and she always says the right stuff. So if in any situation you're always wondering to yourself, what would Iroha do? Just think to yourself what a morally correct character would say and do in any situation. Iroha is going to do exactly that, and it's always going to be exactly what she does. The reason why Iroha is even going on to this adventure is because she's searching for her lost sister, Ui, and she's lost in the sense that she got erased from reality, and like Iroha is the only one who remembers that she still exists, hopefully. So she's gonna go over to Kamihama City, that's the city that Magia Record takes place in, and figure out what's going on and figure out how to get her sister back, where she of course bumps into all of these other characters and goes on all kinds of adventures and stuff happens. There is however some unused potential to her character, as her moral compass and her optimism was supposed to get people into trouble and be seen as a detriment to her, since she's not really listening to the people around her. That said, that never actually came up in the game's story, however it did come up during the anime story, which in my opinion is better. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about all of these characters, because in the game I assume there's going to be stories and events that are going to talk about these characters, give them more backstory, so I'm only going to give you like a quick glimpse at these characters so you have a basic understanding. But for now, I'm not going to spoil too much of what happens, but I can tell you that she very quickly becomes one of the heads of Team Mikazuki, and you can't talk about Team Mikazuki without talking about its most important member, and that is Yachio right here. So Yachio has been described as a sort of blue Homura, which, I mean, it's not entirely wrong, right? Let me put it this way. If the band Nightwish, and I'm talking about old Nightwish here, if that band was a character, it would be Yachio. She's been a magic girl for a long time, I think about 7 years longer than anyone else in the series. She's been through a lot of bad stuff, but she's come out the other way really hardened and emotionally cold. And you know what? When someone becomes hardened like that, it takes a pink girl to warm their heart, which is, you know, exactly what happened. Now, of course, I could go into detail why she's not just blue Homura and all of the things that make her different from Homura, but the thing is, I'm gonna just leave that up to the story, because if you just want to have a basic understanding of Yachio, blue Homura is not too far off, right? You're gonna know what this character is about when you start the game, when you start the story, and then we can go from there. Although I will say one thing is that I really like her theming about being lost at sea at night, only seeing the moon lit above you, and basically being the one who is responsible for ferrying the souls of the dead to the land of the dead. That is something that is quite closely tied with all of her themes and references, and as someone like me who really likes digging into all that stuff, oh, fantastic. Moving on from a complex character to a more simple characters, but you know what, you know me, I like my characters complex and I like my characters simple. You just gotta have the right sauce. And you know what, Tsuruno? She has the right sauce. And not just because she works at a restaurant. If you look up Genki girl in a dictionary, you'll just see this face right here, staring right back at you. She gives 110%, no, 125% every single time she does anything. Is it cooking? Is it delivering food? Is it fighting? Is it just talking? Is it just walking? Is it riding a bike? Is it anything? She's gonna be able to give everything she has and more. And you know what they say, people who smile the most are the happiest. Side note, important thing about Tsuruno is that there's like a real big meme about her where You know, she cooks food and stuff at a restaurant, but all of her food is like, it's not good, but it's like not bad, so it's like 50%. So you're gonna hear 50% a lot, or just 50 points, because that's what the food is like. It's like 50 out of 100. You gotta know your memes.
Team Mikazuki is like a whole big family, which of course means that someone needs to play the role of the child.
That's Felicia right there. She's best friends with Tsuruno and with the rest of the gang, and she's basically like a stray kid who they just picked up and said, you know what, you live on the street, you want to live in this mansion instead. By the way, Team Mikazuki, they're named after the mansion that they live in. It's called Mikazuki Mansion, or like Mikazuki Villa. You know, so they might very much seem like a very similar character, but the difference is that Felicia acts like a spoiled child. She always wants to eat her meat, she doesn't want to eat her veggies, she loves going out on adventures, and she doesn't want to do her homework. And whenever something happens that we don't like, don't worry, she can use her magic to make people magically forget about stuff. Man, it's so much easier in life when you can just forget about bad stuff, you know? And last but not least, we have Sana, who apparently the developers almost forgot about because she doesn't have a PV yet at the time of recording this. But you see, the reason why they forgot about her is because she's invisible. So the thing about Sana is that she was kind of like a tank who wasn't that great, so a lot of people didn't use her, so she was kind of like a bench warmer, and also in the story she's kind of like a sad character, so it all kind of lines up. So Sana kind of like ran away from home. Her parents didn't even realize she ran away because they didn't give a fuck about her. She wished to disappear, and then she became invisible. Like, not like invisible to light, like it's like a cognitive thing. Like she has like an aura around her, like a magical aura where everyone around her like fails to realize that she exists. But it's not like she's bending light around her body. Like, you get the difference, right? I hope you do. But it's very much the same in like how the developers treated her in the story and in the gameplay, and how players treated her and how she's being treated right now, because she doesn't have a PV. And I'm not mad about that. I swear I'm not mad about that. But she's very much like a very precious character that just has to be protected, even though she's also doing the protecting because she has a big shield. But there's also maybe something else going on about that, because that shield is hiding some crazy shit in there, and her like special attacks are like torture attacks that summon torture devices, and then she tortures her enemies. Anyway, that's it for our like main characters of Magia Record, Team Mikazuki. They live in the Mikazuki Manor. They're all one big happy family. They all got adopted by Yachio and Iroha, and they all go on adventures together and do stuff in Magia Record. But of course, they're not the only characters, because there's like a lot more right here. And we're gonna move on to the next big team of characters. It's the KaMoRe Triangle. So they're a gang of just 3 good friends that often help out Team Mikazuki and other characters and just do their own thing as well. And we're gonna start out with one little girl called Kaede. Kaede is a druid. You can see she has a druid hat,
which she never actually wears,
and a druid staff, and she has power over nature, and like she summons earth and vines and stuff, and she likes animals and flowers and all of that stuff, you know. It's kind of like, that's kind of like her thing. We are gonna see so many shy little meek girl characters in Magia Record, not just today, but in all of the other videos that I'm gonna make when like more characters get introduced from Magia Record. But at least with Kaede, you have the difference that over the course of the story she actually learns to like stand up for herself a little, but she still mostly fits into that role. Moving on, we have another great character. It's Momoko. She's like her energy is a bit like a big older sister, right? She looks out for people. She's just trying to make sure that friends stay friends while making more friends, and is just trying to be a problem solver as much as possible.
She also happens to be roommates with one of the best characters in the entirety of Magia Record, but she's not here yet. I'm sorry, guys.
As much as her general overview is concerned, there's not too much more you need to know about her. She usually just gets herself wrapped up with other characters in various dangerous situations or like problems between other characters, and is then trying to basically be somewhat of a voice of reason and try to make people get together again. Usually because Kaede and the next character are often fighting and at each other's throats, and she's always trying to mediate between the two.
She's also generally known for always having a bad timing and drawing the short straw all the time.
And then there's this little shithead. So we have Rena right here, who I like her, but I'm gonna be honest, she's not the kind of character that I actually want to like be friends with in real life, because she happens to not be a very nice person to a lot of people. Some people might call that tsundere, but I've already called her a shithead and I can't take that back anymore. Her main reason to be in the KaMoRe Triangle is so that the other 2 characters have someone to fight with. That said, her power is being able to turn into other people, which that sounds pretty cool. I'm not gonna say no to that power, so yeah, you go, girl. Now moving on, we're gonna have a trio of 3 teams that are all somewhat loosely connected between them, and we're gonna start off with the apartment team. I know the name is kind of lame. Layla, she's a good girl because she's like always trying to make people around her happy and keep friendships going and make new friends. And yeah, there's not too much about her. She's themed after a phoenix, and that's because she died. And then she came back to life through a wish. And she's not wearing any pants. I guess I can talk about why it's called the apartment trio, and that's because these 3 characters that I'm introducing right now, they all live together in like an apartment complex, and they spend time together with each other, and they love their apartment complex so much because there's so many friends there, and they like hanging out there, and they want to protect it from outside influences like an evil witch that's attacking the apartment complex. And you know, when there's so many people in an apartment complex, it's just really hard to like talk to people, especially if you have like social anxiety. It's like you have to get out there, you have to talk to people, and how do you do all of that when you just don't know how to work around that, you know, and the words that they just don't want to come, and you're just sitting there alone in the corner, and your name is Seika. I guess one way of dealing with that is finding a passion, like doing bad comedy, really, really bad comedy. But I guess it will take a little bit more to have Seika get out of her shell, burst out of that shell, and really understand how to talk to people correctly.
Fun fact, Seika's special ability is to be able to teleport between bodies of water, which, that's pretty fucking cool. I hope that gets into the game somehow.
If only a character like Seika had a friend who had the power to connect people's brains, so that way it would be easier to communicate with each other. Oh hey Mito, how's it going? So that's Mito right there. She's kind of a really energetic, in-your-face character who loves everything and finds everything fun and enjoyable, and has to get out there and go on adventures and talk to animals and talk to plants and flowers and, oh my god, do stuff, because life is fun and you have to engage in that fun as much as you can. So that's basically all you need to know about like these 3 characters. And you might have noticed that I haven't really talked too much about all of these characters so far, because here's the thing, it's like the Pulamagi Holy Quintet, they're written to be rather deep and multi-layered and all that kind of stuff, and it's not really about the story that they go on, right? It's more so about the characters themselves. But with Magia Record, that's kind of inverted, where it's not as much about each individual character and trying to make the most complex and deep characters that you can. It's more so about just having fun little stories that all these characters can go on together and have some fun together, and also beat up some bad guys along the way. And that's why it's a lot more important to just get a basic understanding, okay, like I know what this character's personality is like, and then you just take the story from there. And we're gonna continue like that with the next trio of characters. Understanding, mediation, communication, community, togetherness, words. This is Hazuki right there. She grew up at the Azalea house, which is an orphanage, together with her best friends. And that's why they call it the Azalea Trio. And she understands human emotions very well. She can mediate and communicate and make sure everyone is always on the correct page together. Solving problems, very easy if everyone's on the same page, right? And she's gonna need all of that communication when you have to deal with a hyperactive child. Also, she does stonks. I am out here, extremely hot-blooded, Genki girl, goes out there, gets stuff done, fight stuff, punch stuff, do anything you can, play with friends, play with all your friends again, play with them again, because you're never gonna stop, you're gonna have to keep going, keep doing stuff, oh my god, until you die. Multiple times. Just like her story was like a choose your own adventure, and if you take the wrong branch, bad stuff happens. And it's kind of like a meme that she keeps dying in all those bad branches. But he's gonna get right back up in all of those other branches and just keep going. He's also really good friends with Felicia and other characters coming up, so keep that in mind. And then we have the helicopter parent. We have Konoha, who always has to be in control every single time. If anything is ever out of control, she will freak the fuck out. Yeah, she's basically like the overprotective mom kind of character, like we all know about them. And that's basically it. Okay, we're down to 2 teams of the 3 teams that are somewhat loosely connected. We're gonna see their connection later. But for now, Mafia. We're gonna get to why it's called that in a bit. But for now, let's start with the leader. So this is Nanaka. She's basically the Don of the Nanaka Mafia. She always keeps control. She has tabs on everyone and everything. She always knows exactly what's going on, and she will make sure to manipulate and pull strings just here and there, just a little bit, to make sure that everything ends up being fine. Which sounds a little bit like a villain, but you see the difference is she's not. Now that might sound like a good character, and that's because it is. Having a good character, like a morally good character who still like manipulates people and pulls strings to get stuff done, she needs to be in more stories. Now, you know how in a video game you know that someone is an enemy if they have like a health bar on their head and you can like target them? Nanaka basically has that. That's unique magic. Unique magic is just being able to see who you can target and who you can't target, and knowing, oh, that's an enemy right there, and that guy over there, that's not an enemy because I can't target that guy. That's her magic. Now, all these other teams, they're teams of characters that either they live in the same house, they have the same upbringing, or maybe they just happen to align in their interests and they met up and they were like, hey, let's be friends together. But the thing about the Nanaka Mafia team is that it's extremely utilitarian. These people, they're together to get a job done. And this is where Kako comes in, because she doesn't get the job done, but she's gonna be there. And whenever you need to get a job done, you always need someone to stand on the sideline and just say some positive stuff to the people that actually do all the work. And that's Kako right there. Kako is another one of those shy girls I talked about earlier with Kaede. Kaede, Kako, they both love flowers. Are they the same character? No. Because you see, Kako loves books. She loves reading books. And she works in a bookstore. And aside from that, she also is kind of like Kaede in her personality. So there's not actually that much difference between them.
There is one extremely important thing about Kako, is that she has her signature ability of walking up to people, asking them if they're about the same age, and then instantly befriending them if they are.
Moving on to Mayoi, who exists. Yeah, she does martial arts. Is Mayoi... Okay, so here's the thing about her, is that she doesn't really do that much, but she used to be in a Yakuza family. But that family is not doing Yakuza business anymore. They're clean now. Probably. We never know. They're just saying they are. Miyo kind of feels like a character from like a martial arts movie, where she like finds someone who needs help and she goes, I'm gonna help you. And then she walks into a room with like 20 bad guys, and then she beats up all the bad guys and goes, I've saved the day now. And by now maybe you can have a little bit of understanding why it's called the Nanaka Mafia. So you have the Don, and then you have the Mafia connections right here. Although, like I said, former Yakuza, probably not Yakuza anymore, but the fact that they're like a team that only came together to like get a job done, which in this case is hunting a specific witch that caused a lot of trouble to all of these, is how they're connected, right? All these three people that I've mentioned so far, they've all had trouble with a specific witch, so they came together to hunt that witch. And Nanaka has like subtly manipulated all these characters to like get together in a way, because for example, she basically manipulated Kako into making a contract and becoming a magical girl. And I'm not going to talk about the moral implications of that, because she full well knew what she was doing. She already knows the truth about magical girls, and she still did that. That's Nanaka for you. And you might think, okay, so far we had 3 teams, 3 characters. That all lines up, doesn't it? No, because this team is supposed to have 4 characters. The Nanaka Mafia is supposed to have a 4th member, but she's not in the lineup, so I guess we're just not going to talk about her. I'm just going to move on and act like the 4th character, Akira, doesn't exist, and I'm going to do exactly that. Now, here's why I put all the last 3 teams in like a loose connection to each other, even though so far it seems like these 3 teams have no connection with each other at all. But the connection is actually that all of these 3 teams so far that I've mentioned, you have the Apartment Trio, you have the Azalea Trio, you have the Nanaka Mafia, they all had some pretty bad run-ins with witches and with some bad stuff that happened to all of them, and it turns out that all of this bad stuff, there's one character who's to blame for all of that, and that's Hana. This right here is a capital V villain, antagonist, evil person who is just evil for the sake of evil, because she had a bad life, bad stuff happened to her, people died in her life that she cared about, and she just said, fuck everything, I just want to cause as much problems as possible, I want to be the trouble that other people have. So she basically just goes around doing villain stuff, and all of these 3 other teams, they now needed to band together and fight against Hana. And this is probably going to be like a story, like an event story, side story, something that is going to be happening in Magia Exedra, so I'm just going to leave it there. and we're gonna see what happens. Now, really importantly, there's a lot of stuff that's going on here because Hana used to be best friends with this other character called Mikoto, and Mikoto is like one of the most important characters in the entire franchise of Magia Record. But she's not here yet, and she's probably not gonna be here for a long time because her story comes in like way later. So for now, we're just gonna act like Hana is entirely her own thing, and we're just gonna keep Mikoto off to the side, and it's gonna come in later, don't worry about it. Next up, we're gonna have two teams of two, and these two teams of two girls, they're roommates, okay? I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, they're roommates.
And they were roommates.
Oh my god, they were roommates.
Now we're gonna start off with Ren right here, who is one of the most popular characters in the entirety of Magia Record, even surpassing the popularity of a lot of main characters. And you might be thinking, why is a character who is actually like a side character who only appears in side content, who doesn't even appear in main story, how is she so popular? Because she tried to kill herself twice. And the one thing that saved her and gave her meaning in life is finding a girlfriend. And you know that people love that stuff, eat that stuff up. I do. But on top of that, both her design, her witch, the way she fights, her story, basically everything about her is the writers flexing that if they wanted to, they could write a character on the caliber of the Puella Magi Holy Quintet. They're just not doing it for the other characters. But they're showing with Ren they can do it if they wanted to. I think I made an entire video about Ren at some point. Look, it's been so long ago, I don't even remember if I did, but I do think I did make a video just about Ren because there's like so much going on about her. But I will say that she is basically themed after like a fallen angel, like a reborn angel, and that theming goes through everything about her, and it's just so well delivered. Like there's a really good reason why Ren is as popular as she is. And not just because she has a roommate. Speaking about roommates, we have the ultimate roommate right here, the number one roommate in all of Magia Record, because she is the one character who canonically is a lesbian. Look at your new goddess, it's Rika right here. She's going to be the one to be in all of the stories of the rainbow variety. She is the one who gave Ren new meaning in life, and now she also needs Ren to be there for her because she doesn't know what to do with her life. And Rika is at the kind of young age where she doesn't really know how to deal with those emotions of like love and romance and that stuff, especially because, you know, as a gay person, it's like not that simple to figure out how to deal with all of that stuff. So she's kind of trying to work through that with Ren. And that dynamic works out pretty well because Rika is the more active person, more going out there character, while Ren is the more held back, more shy character. And they kind of complement each other really well. And I could spend so much time talking about the character dynamic with each other that I'm just gonna leave it here because otherwise I'm not gonna shut the fuck up ever. Okay, moving on from two roommates, we're next gonna talk about two roommates. Starting with KaMoRe. KaMoRe is extremely dependable. She takes on every burden that life throws at her and she gets stuff done because someone has to take these burdens, someone has to get all this stuff done. If her family can't do it because they're otherwise preoccupied or because they're in rough times, don't worry, KaMoRe is there, she's gonna do it. Now, of course, that might mean that she may be putting a little bit too much onto herself and she kind of needs to work through all of that stress that she has, but it's a good thing that she's not alone. Because you see, when KaMoRe was looking for someone to be there for her, to help her with all of the problems that she's put onto herself, this other girl appeared. That's Masara right there, who is a very interesting character and a rather unique character because she's basically like entirely cold in her face and in the way that she acts. She basically never smiles normally, and her entire story is about the fact that she's gone through life without ever really feeling much of anything, not really having many hobbies. Like, she's good at swimming, but that's about it. So she's just been trying as much as possible to feel something, anything. So she meets up with KaMoRe, and as it turns out, there's a lot of emotion that's suddenly going on towards KaMoRe, and you have really gay lines like, oh my god, I never felt anything, but suddenly this girl, and now my emotions, I don't know what these emotions are. And these characters, dude, they have an alt where they're like married. They may be roommates. Okay, next up are the bunch of characters that like they don't fit anywhere. They like either don't have their friend group yet in the list of characters that are here, or they just don't have like a defined friend group that makes sense to like put together as a team. So here's just a bunch of single characters. First off, Himika. She's a joke. Like, kind of but not really. Like, here's the thing. So there's this guy called Papa, who is the guy who draws all of the gag comics, right? So like he did Magia Report, which was this weekly gag manga for Magia Record, and now he's drawing Magia Exedra, which is the gag comic for Magia Exedra. And he designed a single character, and that's her. So the thing about her is that she's living in a family of 7 other siblings, and they're so dirt poor that she dumpster dives for food and picks up individual yen off the ground and goes, oh my god, I'm rich. I can pay for a meal with this thing. If I spread it across everyone in the family, maybe it can feed someone for a day. And that's kind of sad. But the thing is, it's not played as sad, it's played as, isn't it funny? And you know why? It's because she's the hero of the working class. All of the poor people out there, they will all come together and unite under the banner of the working class hero. And then we have a little kid who is, she's the little sister character. Like, if you had to tell you, okay, she's the Imoto type character, that's Riko right there. So Riko is a character who tries really hard to grow up and learn how to be like all of those adults around her that she admires and wants to be like. And everyone treats her like their little sister, and that's who she is. Ashley, she's an American. So I know that's not very popular right now, but she's an American. And she does America stuff, like blowing things up with a teddy bear. So Ashley is, some people might say, a weeb. Other people might call her cringe. And she's very much both of that. So the whole idea behind her is that when the English version of Magia Record came out, they wanted to have a character who is like an English character that like comes to Japan and shows everyone what it's like to be from the Western world. So they made Ashley Taylor specifically for the English version. And yeah, she very much is a weeb who always dreamed of going to Japan, and then she does. As you can see, she's very much into anime and manga and specifically Japanese fashion and all of that stuff, and she brings some of the Western energy to the Magia Record roster. And people thought that she wasn't going to be anywhere after the English server died, but then she got added to the Japanese server, and then we thought, okay, that's a one-time thing, they're going to just add her to the Japanese server, and then the Japanese server dies, and then she's gone forever. And now they're bringing her back immediately, so they're probably using her as a mascot for the entire Western audience, which, you know, that's fine. Now, it's really good that it's dark outside right now, because this next character, they only appear when it's dark out. This is Kush. So Kushu is magically unable to stay awake when it's light outside. She can only be awake when it's dark, because wishes and magic are kind of funny, aren't they? That said, she's a little bit of a tunie, because at night she goes out and hunts like the hunter that she is, and always makes sure to put on a serious face, because serious combat requires serious face. Even though other characters would probably call her a weirdo. But which characters are more popular than weirdos? None. We love our weirdos, and that's probably why she's here, because the thing is about Kush is that she's from like the later parts of the game's life cycle. Like all these other characters that are in Magia Record that are added on this current list, they're from like the first half of the game's life cycle. But Kush is the only character who's from like the second half of the game's life cycle. And that's probably because people just love funny, weird characters. And you know what kind of characters people usually don't like? This one right here. That's Natsuki. So you take a character who loves baseball. She's grown up, always wanted to play baseball. That's her lifelong dream. She wants to be a baseball player. And then when the school forms a baseball team, she's told that she can't be on the baseball team because it's only for boys. And you might think, okay, Jubei has arrived on the scene. She's gonna make a wish to somehow be on the baseball team or somehow play baseball, because that's a thing that she wants to do, right? No, she just accepts that I guess girls can't play baseball, and she becomes a cheerleader instead, because that's what girls are supposed to do. And this might not be the best message to send to players, that if you're a girl and society tells you that you can't do something, then what you need to do is you need to just accept that. She is also designed by the she's designed by the Senran Kagura guy, and it shows. And if you combine both these two aspects, she kind of doesn't go over very well with like most people, and she's not part of any like close friend group or team or anything, so most people just forget she exists, which is weird because she's here right now in the lineup of like the initial characters, and I thought they only wanted to introduce characters that are like that people like and enjoy, and instead we have Natsuki. So I guess we can balance it out with a character that people actually do like for the wrong reasons. So this is Asuka. Her family owns a dojo and she always trains in the dojo. She like does naginata stuff and all kinds of other weapon stuff, and she's kind of like a little like a samurai character herself a little, and she's a very funny and enjoyable character. But maybe it's not the kind of jokes that people should like lean into. Like, you see, her comedy is the fact that she is like not very bright. She may be like the lowest IQ character in the entire cast, and whenever she does anything wrong, she says, well, I guess there's only one way to atone. Someone hand me a blade. I'm gonna do it. And that's funny. Everyone laugh. Here comes the laugh track. Wow, wow, wow. Haha, funny. Why can't we have characters that are funny without being controversial? Why can't we have characters that are just, you know, good characters that are also funny? What were you saying? So this is Karin. She is the last character that I'm gonna be talking about today. Yeah, she's one of the most popular characters as well, alongside the one that I talked about earlier. So here's the thing about Karin, is that she's supposed to be a duo with another character. That character being Aina Gray, and that character has not been shown off yet, but she's like one of the most important characters through the entirety of Magia Record, similar to Mikoto that I talked about earlier. So she's gonna be appearing at some point, but for now we're gonna have to treat Karin as if she's just entirely alone. Okay, so why is Karin so popular? Well, first off, I always say that characters can really shine if you just give them something interesting to do, and that something should be informed by who they are as a character. And Karin is exactly like that. She absolutely loves this little weird comic called Phantom Thief Kitten, so of course she herself wants to be a phantom thief, which means she just goes out and steals stuff from other magical goods, including grief seeds from other magical goods, which morally might be a bit questionable, but who cares? And she also loves Halloween on top of that, which is why she dresses up like a Halloween witch. And there's just like a lot of good stuff that happens with her interactions with Aina, but I can't talk about that because Aina isn't here, and I'm only giving you like a little bit of an intro, and the fact that she's like a little thief who loves Halloween and draws her own manga, which looks kind of interesting actually. I would read that. I would read that if like there's like a full manga like that. I would read that. But that basically gives you like a basic overview of Karin, and with that, basically giving you a basic overview of basically all of the characters that are in here in the original lineup of released characters. Now, as far as I understand it, not all of these characters are actually going to be in the game at release, but they're going to be releasing soon after the game launches. So now you at least have some understanding. Just a very basic understanding, because like I said, Magia Record characters, they're less about having deep and complex characters that take like multiple hours to dissect. They're more about just having a cast of quirky characters that come together and then go on adventures. And these adventures, that is what counts when it comes to Magia Record. And that is why I didn't want to really go in too deep or at all into the actual stories that all these characters go on, because I could tell you like 5 times as long as this video has been so far, just talking about the adventures that these characters go on, even if it's just their introductory adventures. But I would need to leave that up to Magia Exedra, because otherwise I could probably be spoiling everything to you. So instead, now you know who these characters are, now you know what's gonna happen when you roll for them in Magia Record. Roll for them, do it. This is Ricardo Fantasy, and I'm gonna sign out now. Thank you guys for watching that. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, and I'll see you guys next time.